couple months into my first year of high school, I started to have this itch. By my last year, that feeling had reached its so-called boiling point, and I finally started to understand what it was. It was me trying to reject the environment I was in, trying to free this captive desire to rebel against the system that I was forced into. I was never convinced by school, or at least not the way school approached education. I started to understand that going to school was one thing, and that true education, learning, and growth was a whole other thing. And I hated the fact that I felt stuck. I hated the fact that I would wake up and the only thing I would have on my agenda for that day was to prepare for exams. I was good at it, but it just felt like there was supposed to be more to life than chasing the highest grade on a laminated piece of paper. School itself wasn't hard for me, and I don't say that as a flex, but it wasn't as challenging as the other kids made it out to be at the time. In fact, on my final exams, I somehow managed to achieve the highest grade in math in the entire country. It was a pretty small country, but yeah, I did that. And I remember getting the news from my school telling me that I would be presented with the shield for my achievement. And to this day, I won't forget walking to school with my mom to receive that award, and how happy she was, how proud she was of her son. And at that time, I didn't feel anything. I didn't see how it was an achievement. I wasn't convinced that maxing out the percentage on my certificate was something to be proud of. In my eyes, the only good thing that came out of that day was getting to see my mom smile.
Welcome to my world, baby. The ceiling is our sky.
From a young age, I was told by my teachers to work hard at school, that my grades were the only thing that mattered, so I can get into a good university, graduate, and get a good job in a respected company. And the rest of the same old song we all heard. I would hear that from them while simultaneously seeing how rare it was to come across someone who went down that path and came out the other end satisfied. Sure, they were making a living, they were comfortable, but it always felt like something was missing in their life. That spark just wasn't there. That hope they had to become something was slowly fading away, if not completely gone. And it never sat right with me, how other people managed to dig themselves out of that hole, or never end up in it in the first place. And then I got a little older, and I saw how people around me would try to find their happiness in things, shiny objects, because social media has convinced us to believe that living the good life depends on how many things you have. The car, the loft, the jewelry, the tech, and all the other things you can think of. Then you find out that satisfaction only lasts as long as it takes you to take that thing out of its packaging. For some reason, we refuse to understand that we don't take anything that we attain in this life with us to the grave. A generational artist who sold millions of copies of his album dies. A homeless man dies on the street the next day. Guess what they have in common? They both end up 6 feet under, with nothing but a white cloth covering their bodies. Survivorship bias tells us that we only focus on the successful examples in a set of people, ignoring the ones that failed, thus leading to an overly optimistic outlook and a distorted reality, or in other words, delusion. So based on that logic, we argue that sticking to the path, getting a degree and a job is quote-unquote the safer option. But how exactly is it safer when we're living in a time where unemployment has been made into a meme, and the biggest dream companies that people aspire to work at are laying off people left and right to better integrate agentic AI into their business workflow? We're made to believe that this path is safer when in reality we now live in a world where it's more realistic for you to follow your dreams than to get a job. Then again, I very well might be talking out of my ass. I'm not telling you to drop out of uni and leave everything behind. That would be dumb, especially if you don't have a plan B. All I'm trying to say is don't believe the lies that have been told to you about the safety and security of having a job. Nothing is guaranteed. Not even tomorrow. And that's the problem a lot of us have. We like to believe that we're safer than we really are. When you grow up so sheltered and protected from the outside world, you start to believe that you can never really fall victim to a lot of the bullshit you see other people facing. You see headlines of a car crash leaving 2 dead. You walk across a homeless guy missing a shoe. Or maybe you stumble across a video of someone complaining about being laid off. And for all those people, you think to yourself, that can never be me, right? So how do you make it? I think making it relies on a combination of things. Maybe it's delusional self-belief, or the understanding that merely trying counts for 80% of what you need to do. People often overcomplicate what it takes to make their dreams come true. Whether it be music, fashion, art, business, anything creative or non-creative for that matter. If you simply try, you've already beaten the majority of the people you're competing with. Because in the age we live in, most people don't even try. And I believe that God would not put an idea in your head if he knew that you weren't capable of attaining it. That idea you have, that itch you feel for something more, it's there for a reason. And if you just respond to it, if you try to get closer and closer to it, the only thing that can truly get in your way is you. So learn to detach yourself from the result. I believe that when you detach yourself from the end result and focus solely on the craft, that's when you start making great shit. Thank you for watching all the way to the end.